Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Advocacy Action Center. I just wanted to introduce the first interview with Miss Najma Nash. She's a mother from New Jersey who is advocating for changes in education services. She lost her own daughter almost 2 years ago on a school bus in New Jersey and really advocating for legislation that is going to prevent this situation from happening again to someone else. And so please take notes on how you can get involved in fighting for Fajr's Law. This is a really great interview with great information. Miss Nash has taken it to another level at the local level and making sure that every student in her school district has an IEP that is reviewed on an annual basis and services are considered. So please join us, listen to this interview. I know that you'll all enjoy the information that you'll get. Thanks. Hi, welcome to the Advocacy Action Center, where we have conversations on advocacy and community empowerment. Today, I'm joined by Miss Najma Nash. She's our first guest interview, and so I'm so excited to have you. We have a long friendship, and we came together in advocacy. What's that, about 2 years ago now, Naj?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna just let you introduce yourself, Miss Nash. Tell us about your journey as a parent and how, it led you to advocate for this law.
Okay. Um, I'm Najma, and um, about a little over 2 years ago, I lost my daughter. Her name is Fajr, and it was due to negligence on school transportation bus. Um, and that's what led me to advocate for other children who have disabilities and ride public school transportation. So, Faja had a rare chromosome disorder, which is called Emanuel syndrome. And that was a challenge in itself, and then entrusting others, with your children with special needs is another challenge. But yeah, so that's what led me to advocate. I wanted to basically try to come up with some type of safety laws and safety precautions that can be put in place for all children in New Jersey who are riding public school transportation.
Okay. So tell me, what's the significance of Faja's law? Like a little bit about the details on what you're fighting for.
Okay, so basically, where they have systems put in place for safety, so making sure that the attendants, that the one-on-one para or aides that are dedicated for special needs children to have the training that they need. One of them being CPR training, the other being able to just recognize the signs of distress, however they may be, and being able to contact emergency services as needed, like have some type of avenue to be able to do that from the transportation, from the bus, because a lot of it was just like no one knew what to do. And in turn, my daughter lost her life. It was more so because of negligence, so that's the main portion of Fajr's law, is to put certain things in place where we can counteract and prevent um, these detrimental losses that, New Jersey has been going through for some time now.
I mean, it's honestly shocking to hear that these precautions are not in place. I think as parents, we just make assumptions, whenever services are coordinated for our children.
Mhm.
Um, so I think this is important to bring awareness of our current state. And it's so unfortunate that, this is why,
Right.
that this was the result here.
Hmm.
Um, so how did your experience influence your decision to get involved in advocacy? So, when we first started, I think I introduced you to the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities, and I know you had a conversation with the ombudsman.
Hmm.
Um, so tell me a little bit about your advocacy journey, and how you kind of got started and decided that you were going to actually fight for legislation.
So I was really just so gun ho on trying to get things to change within the systems here in Franklin Township. So I was going to the parent meetings for the special education team. So
Mm-hmm.
I was going to their outreach meetings and speaking to them and seeing how um, their kids are being treated and what's going on within the community, how we can make things safer for them as well here. So I started to do that. And then I just realized, like, what about other people in New Jersey? Like, is this happening other places? Like, is other children just being neglected, or even, as tragic as losing their lives because of certain safety precautions are not in place already? So that's how I got into that. And then when I started talking to the New Jersey Ombudsman for disabilities, for children with disabilities, he was telling me, how it would be like a long journey, basically, to try to get to talk to these legislators, to even, have them consider anything. And it's like I said, it's been 2 years, so it's been a while. However, I believe just me talking out, me talking to um, on social media, me doing just different interviews for different types of advocacy groups, um, and talking within my community, like my voice has been being heard, basically. There is some changes that are being, I want to say, talked about with the legislators now. Um, they just had another meeting too as well. I'm going to pull that up in a second so I can tell you more about that.
Okay.
But it is it's a good thing. They put in some different safety precautions, and it's like geared towards children with disabilities, basically.
Okay. And do you know if that's policy or legislation, like that's happening at the state house, these conversations?
It is the legislators. So
Okay.
it's being, I believe they just had a meeting about it at in the Senate,
Wow.
like maybe like 2 weeks ago.
I mean, it's awesome to hear that your legislation, has made it this far and that different committees are having these discussions. It does honestly take a long time to pass legislation, but if you continue to have these committees move it around and have these conversations, vote it out, you can be successful. And so I wanted to ask number one, what was your CPAG's reaction, the other parents in your township? Did they join you in your advocacy? Did they offer you support in any way? What was that relationship like?
So with the CPAC in the beginning, I was very hands on with them, and going to their different meetings that they were having, and I want to say around about between 6 months to a year mark with going back and forth with the CPAC and helping them raise different concerns with the Board of Education and getting things moving and changing to better the safety for our children now in Franklin Township, which helped a lot. But I want to say just, you know, my grief, and me being able to handle those talks
Hmm.
started to decrease. So
Yeah, it could take a toll, understandably.
yeah, so I had to limit myself from
Hmm.
a lot of the talks, but they always let me know that they're in my corner, they're here if needed, um and that they would, continue to fight with me. alongside me. And I don't think I had a chance to send them the new legislation that just went before the Senate.
Okay,
But thanks for reminding me because I would like to get those links to them because it is two different bills that are being submitted to the
great.
Senate
Okay.
for. Yeah.
Send me that information also so I can share with folks that are going to see this video. I mean,
Okay.
I love that you were able to work with your local parents to make that immediate change because I'm sure that everyone was devastated and wanted to support you,
Hmm.
but to actually make those policy changes, I think is key that you had the resilience to kind of do that, to work with your community to do that. I know it
Hmm.
had to be painful, but honestly, testimony and a real story is what pushes change. And then to take it to this next level, for state legislation, it's
Hmm.
just amazing. Are there any specific legislators that have really been champions for you on the state level?
No, they have not been in contact with me still at all. I did reach out to a few, but I have yet to receive like any response on any legislative level.
Okay. Okay, so that's a call to action, I think, for folks that, we would ask them to make calls to state legislators, and to bring their attention to the changes that, we want to see in transportation for our children,
Mhm.
and to protect folks moving forward. Um, what have been some of the biggest challenges you face advocating for Fajr's Law?
One of the biggest challenges has been me constantly reiterating my story. What happened, what took place, how it affects me and my family, how it affects our town. Um, and I want to say, I don't know, like in the beginning, I was just like, I was very strong and I didn't even understand how I was able, to continuously say the same things over and over and over again. But I will want to say that's like one of the biggest challenges where it's like now, 2 years have passed, a little over 2 years have passed, and it's like I have my days, some days, I'm talking fine about it, and then the next is like, as soon as it's brought up, it's like tears are coming to my eyes. It's like, I don't really want to talk about it anymore because it's just still so painful, you know?
Well, yeah, I can imagine. I'm so sorry that you have to go through this and endure this. And really, in these types of situations, all we can really offer one another is prayer.
Hmm.
But, I'm hoping that it stops here, and we're able to make a change moving forward.
Yes.
Um, what strategies or tactics have you found to be most effective when raising awareness?
Raising awareness, the most effective is repetitiveness. Also, I would say social media, but it's not really too much social media. It's like I would want to say the news outlets, because if I believe if I wouldn't have done what I did in the very beginning of when I first encountered this loss, um, no one would probably even know about it. And
That's true. Honestly, because of your advocacy, other stories were told.
right.
As parents, we don't hear what happens outside of our communities a lot of times. And I feel that, your story gave it light, you know, um,
Mhm.
some of these some of these changes that need to be made, folks were unaware. We're unaware that, the staff on the bus is just unprepared, that they don't have a plan.
Right.
Sometimes there's even other barriers, language barriers. So
Hmm.
there are a lot of things that come into play, in advocacy. And, again, I think that you gave a platform for some families that had also suffered loss. But, there are more families that have issues with transportation that haven't suffered a loss.
Right.
but they're on this constant kind of advocacy wheel trying to have adequate transportation, safe transportation for their
Right.
child.
Right.
What do you feel the broader response from families in New Jersey have been? Families outside of your township that have heard your story. Do
Mhm.
you feel that you have the support of the state, or have you been mostly focused on legislation and not necessarily networking with families?
So, yeah, I haven't been networking with too many other families, because like dealing with like social media, because that's how most people communicate these days. It's like it can go both ways, and some people I feel like they have strong opinions against what I was saying, and others are feel like as though they would stand with me, if I had the chance to. And at one point, it was starting to become a little bit overwhelming. The different types of responses from the public of other families or other townships, other states, and things of that nature. So at one point, I had to just separate myself from social media altogether.
Okay.
Um, and I think because of how international my case went or was in the public, it just brought on so much stuff just onto me. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and I
Yeah,
was
now
just
you're
like
almost,
between that and going back and forth to court,
yeah.
trying to make sure, the bus aide was held accountable. That was another challenge in itself. But thank God, I made it through and the case is finally over. And she was convicted. And I don't know. I kind of shied away from dealing with anything outside of legislation or anyone that would be able to help me, um, you know, even just to get them talking about changing something for the state regarding safety and adequate transportation for our special needs children.
Okay. I mean, social media really can be overwhelming. A lot of times I feel like people are negative on social media.
Very much so.
And, I'm really hoping that this can be a collaborative space where it's a call to action. If you want to get involved and you want to participate, please do. If
Right,
you don't, that's fine.
right.
But the negativity is really just not helpful.
Hmm.
And so I'm hoping that this is just a place where it's a call to action for advocates, and for folks that want to see change.
Yes.
But, whenever you're posting, unfortunately, you do get both sides. But
Right,
I'm so grateful and so happy to hear that you were successful and that the case is finished. And, whatever people think of that is their opinion. And,
right,
unfortunately, people want to put their opinion and their trauma almost on you, and it's not fair. So definitely understand why you shied away from social media. And again, we want to create collaborative spaces. And if folks want to reach out to their legislators, that's really what we're asking for here. Follow the legislation, support the legislation,
hmm,
is what we're looking for.
yes.
So, what are some of the most rewarding moments that you've experienced? Do you think that conviction was the most rewarding, or was there something that, made you feel that something was accomplished here?
Okay, so I want to say the most rewarding would be the talks and legislation and the bills that were submitted, um, and hopefully will be approved. It's looking very hopeful, and I can't wait to share those links with you. There's two of them, and but definitely not the conviction. It wasn't rewarding at all. It didn't make me feel any better.
Okay.
but also not just with the talks of the legislators and the bills being submitted, um, but a lot of the things that I was asking for with Fajr's law petition, I can see were implemented within the bill. So I do plan on continuing to reach out to them and, you know, just following the progress of how that's going to go along. If it's either if even if they will even call it quote unquote Fajr's law or not, as long as it's passed, I'm happy with that too.
Yeah.
You know, but just the little wins as well within my community, Franklin Township, with the special education and the Board of Education, where they just made like, I want to say not small, but they made significant changes within the special education program and paying more attention to the IEPs and making sure that they are in fact individualized for each child and not just like a blanket IEP for all of the special needs children. So that I want to say is a win as well, and gave me you know some gratification throughout this whole ordeal.
I mean, that's really amazing because too many times IEPs are a copy and paste. And I think that's another area where some parents that IEP is like so important, that they go through it with a fine tooth comb, but others are just trusting, the educators and the IEP team. And
Hmm.
so it's just wonderful to hear that you had an impact probably on every student that receive special education services in your district. They
Yes,
looked at those IEPs and they looked at what accommodations were really needed. So I hats off, I applaud you for that. Is amazing. It really is
yes.
not. So looking ahead, what's your ultimate vision for the future for children with disabilities in New Jersey? And what role do you hope Fajr's Law will play?
So in the future, I hope that I am a bit stronger and I have the strength to continue to tell my story. In an instance to whereas it is helping other people in other states and other communities where they need that, like you said, call to action, and they just need that push to help them get what their children need. So I would love to continue to do that, as time go on. Um, I want to, like I said, continue to follow the legislation to hopefully, get that passed, and it be rolled out to everyone in the state of New Jersey. Um, and I just wherever safety and transportation aligns and help is needed, and I can be of help or assistance, I would like to make myself available for it.
Okay. And how can folks get involved in supporting Fajr's Law and advocacy efforts you've been leading?
I think definitely reaching out to the legislators, their senators, you know, anyone that would have their hand in being able to push that through for the state of New Jersey. Anything will help. Letters, phone calls, social media posts, just anything along those lines, I would say would help.
Okay, I would
Also
advise
signing
all
the
three.
petition. Yeah. Uh-huh. Signing the petition still, getting more signatures. That as well, I think would help. And yeah,
Okay, when we post this, we will have some links for folks. So definitely send me the information for the bill so
yes.
folks can get involved. Do you
Okay.
have any last thoughts before we end the interview?
And no, I just would like to say thank you so much for giving me this, platform and opportunity to speak out about the challenges that we all go through with having special needs children and needing, the help of our township or our city to get our children back and forth to school in a safe manner. So I appreciate that.
My pleasure. I thank you for joining us, Najma. Honestly, you are a champion and, an example of what it takes to advocate for change. And you've made so many accomplishments. It's amazing. It really is.
Thank you.
You always have my support. Anything that I can do, I'm happy to share the word and try to help move this legislation forward. So thank you
Thank you,
again for
Crystal.
joining us, and we'll definitely be in touch with you. Send me the
Yes.
links. We want folks to get involved.
Yep, I'll send it right after.
Okay, hon. Have a great day.
You as well. Bye bye.